Like, you have to get down to the core of everything. Like, is money the most important thing for me in this project? Is fame the most important thing in this project? Is notoriety? What is it? Like, be clear. Don't hide it. Don't say, well, I really want to do this because I want to do this thing. No. Really, tell me the truth. Like, what's the real truth here? Like, what is it? Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Pickles and Pasta with Steph and Jay. We were thinking about collaboration and how, as creatives, a lot of stuff you do is by yourself, but you do need collaboration. I think it's important to have collaborators. So, our topic this week is what collaboration actually costs, what the effects are of collaboration, how the positives and the negatives work together, and does that affect the creativity? Does it help it? Does it hurt it? And when does it do it? And all sort of stuff. I think there's collaboration, and I guess it's how we interpret it. There's like collaboration where it's like you're on the same team, you're kind of working on something together, and then there's people doing things for you, which I think is different than collaboration. And I've experienced both. And so I find them to be very different, and I think managing them is different, mentally and emotionally managing them, but physically, like if it's your business, if you're the creative, if you're the CEO, whatever, like it's different. It's a very, very different sort of experience. I've had people, and I remember from early on first business, I realized I didn't want to do everything myself. I didn't want to have that kind of a business. Like, I knew people that did that, and some of them were, very successful. They did well. They made good money and they were happy and whatever. I didn't want that. And I've just experienced different people that I've seen. I've learned from different people I've met and I've seen, I've read about and worked with, and how they operate. And I think collaboration is a unique thing. Like, to be able to be in a situation where you're truly collaborating with somebody, like you're really complementing each other, like you're kind of in step with each other, as opposed to, oh, there's so and so and they do this, so let me give them this to do. Or they know this is their thing. When this happens, they do this. So they're part of the organization, but they're not necessarily collaborating. That's from my perspective. I'm not saying that's right, but that I kind of see that way. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, that makes total sense. And quite honestly, I haven't personally. I don't think I've experienced many true collaborations in that sense. Just answering what you're asking me. I mean, my view of it, for example, the thing that comes to mind as something that I probably didn't think through well enough was when I collaborated with those artists for the most recent One collection.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that should have been a collaboration. That should have been a collaboration. You're right.
Exactly. But it turned out to be a headache and a nightmare in a little bit, on some levels.
Yeah, no, on many levels. On many levels.
Yeah. And I think it was a lack of experience on my part,
Right.
partially,
Okay.
because I didn't realize that these artists were going to be so difficult. And also, I guess I didn't, as an artist, you don't want some other artist telling you what to make when they're asking you to make art on your bags. Like, I wanted each artist to kind of do their thing. But I guess
Hold on. Maybe give a little backstory. Maybe kind of explain this a little bit, because I think it's a very good example, and I think maybe it'd be good for the audience to understand kind of more specifically what this project was.
You and I are kind of knowing what this is about.
We know it. Yeah, we experienced it. We know. Yeah, I'm getting the shakes just thinking about it. But yeah.
So we'll go back about 2 years ago where I was in New York meeting different artists, and I met this woman who,
Shall remain
really,
nameless.
yeah, she shall remain nameless. She, upcycles clothing, and I thought it was really cool. And I enjoyed meeting her. I visited her studio several times, and she really said to me, we should collaborate. And I gave it a little thought, and I thought, well, this could be cool because a lot of what she does is she takes a garment or an accessory and she paints it. And I thought, okay, she could paint and her style some of my products. So I gave her, a bunch of bags and belts. I don't think I gave her any clothing. And before we got started on anything, she wanted to create a contract, which no problem. I put together a contract. You looked it over. We thought it was good. And she came back with all these, you know, demands
Notes. Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
notes. And
yeah.
so I acquiesced and we updated the contract. And even just getting her signature was a little bit of a nightmare. I probably should have known then that this was maybe going to be not as collaborative as it should be. And so she went ahead and painted these bags. And we did this show together in New York City called the Not So Normal. And it's a really cool, like, pop-up. Basically, they come from LA and they put on this like weekend pop-up in a cool place with all these vendors, and we had a booth together. And at the same time, I also invited a few other younger artists to participate. So and they said yes. I sent each of them, I let them pick which bag they wanted. I sent them out to them. I told them the date they needed to get it back to me. And so everyone did that. But I think where things kind of fell through the cracks is if it didn't sell at the show, I was then going to be putting it on my website and incurring all of the costs on me to market it, to sell it. And like any e-commerce brand, if something doesn't sell in a certain amount of time, you then put it on sale. And that is where I ran into some serious problems with one of the artists. All the other artists were pretty cool. I mean, no, granted, they didn't offer to help with any marketing costs. They didn't pay for the shipping when things got sold. There were a lot of costs that fell on me because I didn't know enough to think all these things through for this collaboration. So it cost me a lot more money than I got out of this. And it was quite an aggravation. And this one particular artist, it really became almost a legal issue.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you kind of laid out there. The idea was we had these bags. You were like, if artists could paint on them, every bag would be a one of a kind. We call it the one collection. Like, it made sense. The market, it all made sense, but it wasn't really true collaboration. Like, true collaboration would have been everybody kind of saying, well, here's what I'm good at. Here's what I'm not good at. I'll do all of this. I'll do my part. I'll really do it, but I'm not good at this other thing. So if you want me to help, you got to guide me because I don't know how to do this, but I'll do this and I'll help. Then it's like, okay, that's collaboration. Like,
Right.
you do this, you do that. It's like if you have a lunch at your house or you have a get together, collaboration isn't someone saying, okay, I'll give you $20. Collaboration is like, okay, I'll make the macaroni salad. I'll make this thing. I'll bring this. That's collaboration. And we'll all do. And obviously, if your kitchen isn't big enough, you can't all cook at the same time, but someone can put the plates. Like, that's collaboration. That's real collaboration. This we thought was going to be collaboration. We thought it was in their best interest to do these other things, but we didn't like tell them, here's the marching orders, right? So we didn't do that part because,
No.
like you said, and I've had the same sort of situation. Well, they're adults, like they have their own business, like they know how to do this. But it's different because I think in their minds, they were doing it for you. So in their minds, it was like, well, I did the work. I'm expecting this amount of money. Not my problem. You put it on sale. Like that was her added. That one person we're talking about. She must be hearing us right now. Um, it's like she was like, it's not my problem that you put it on sale. I did the work expecting X amount of money to come, my share of the deal. You sell it for less. That's your problem. It's not my problem. We were like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, but that also wasn't like that was clearly stated. Like the
Uh,
profit would be
I,
divided
sure.
no
Yeah,
matter
I
what
hear
it's
you.
sold
I hear you.
for. So,
So I think
yeah.
like that's and I think and I think to a great extent when it comes to creatives, it's a little bit more complicated.
I mean, just recently, I think what I just did for that Bond and Grace, I think that's a collaboration. They gave me, I mean, they commissioned me, but I was still collaborating with them. They were giving me
Yeah,
information.
they gave you the guidance. They gave you right. Yeah.
They gave me the chapter in the book. And basically, for our audience, I recently submitted 3 paintings to an art book company that makes these art books using like classic literature. And they, like, for example, this one is on Pride and Prejudice. So they gave me 3 different quotes out of the novel Pride and Prejudice, and I had to create an abstract painting for each of those quotes. And they
Inspired by
gave
that
me,
quote.
yes, and that was the guideline. And they had a palette, a color palette. So that was guidance. And so I feel like that was collaborative,
Okay.
I think,
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I don't know, maybe it's an interesting word. Like, being on a film set is collaborative, right? Like or video set or, shooting, doing something. It is technically collaborative, right? Like this person does this person does that. But I think when it kind of flows very well together, then it feels like real collaboration. When there's friction, when people don't come in with the same attitude, and I think maybe that's the core of it. Like I think for any partnership, collaboration, whatever to work, you have to really be on the same page and stay on the same page, like throughout the process. I think a lot of times these things start off great, could be a partnership, it could be whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna talk about this so we understand what the goal is for this thing or for that thing, and then you do this, you do that, and you see those things and they work really well. If they start to go off track, you have to catch them really early. You have to like really, really spot it. It's an interesting thing, and I think with creativity, it is even a little bit more complex because there's that thing you can't touch, right? Like if 2 lawyers are partners, like you can touch it, you can see it, the word on the page, the argument that they make, the way they negotiate, like you can follow those things. If you're a contractor and you're building buildings or you're doing renovations, like it's very clear, it's very easy, you can touch it, you can see it. With creativity, it's not so easy. There's nuance, there's what's going on in your mind, what are you feeling, like it's a lot more complicated. And I think you know there's so many different factors go into that, like work ethic, timelines, like all different sort of things go into like how do you really collaborate well with someone and how do people see the other side of it. And I think that can get very tricky too, right? Like
Definitely. Yeah.
right, I mean, you work a certain way that works for you. Not saying it's right or wrong, it's
No,
right for you.
I'm laughing because I'm literally the kind of person that will work from the crack of dawn till 11 o'clock at night,
And
you
other
know,
people are different,
if
right?
I have
And
to. Yeah.
yeah, and other people are different. So it's they're just there's more to it. There's just more to it, I think. I mean, can you think of times where like it was really like perfectly smooth in any collaborations that you've had? Like where like or do you feel like as a creative it's just more likely to have more bumps in the road because of the process?
Yeah, because I think it's a little difficult because, like, when I think of where it was successful, it wasn't really a creative thing in the way you're thinking about it. Like, to me, to create, have some fun today was a creative thing. It was like creating a brand out of a little tiny suburb in Pennsylvania with a group of people that were my friends. Oh, you're really good at like, setting up a website. Okay, so you do that. I'm the overall visionary. I'll do that. And for a little while, that was a collaboration that was very successful. I had my best friend create the website and she did all the business stuff and I was creating all the products. And for a little while, that was amazing. But then other factors come into play and, that vibe doesn't hold always because people have other things they want to do. And so for me, I've only experienced it a couple of times where it was like truly like our brains were I mean, I'd say what I would say is you and I are good collaborators, I mean, but I'm talking about it in this other way than you were referring to collaboration.
Well, I mean, because I think what we do, we complement each other, and we understand that there's certain things that we probably shouldn't do. And, we kind of find that balance of like, we're clear on the goal, we're clear on what we want to accomplish, we understand what we're undertaking, we realize that there's easier ways to live than the way we do it. And we go into it, whatever the project may be, whatever the thing may be, and we kind of put, we kind of watch each other's back. I don't have an ego about it. You don't have an ego about it. Like that doesn't come into play with us. I think those things do come into play with other people. I think I've had it countless times. I mean, there were only a few times that I can think of in all the different things that I've done and all the different businesses I've had that I'm like, okay, that really worked. Now I can go on and on and on about the time that we both said this is going to work. Like we were like, this is going to work. This is going to be great. You do this and I'll do this and everything will be great. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, Jay, why don't you do this too? Like, oh, why, and there's, now you start to be like, well, why are we having friction? Like we set the goals. Like we agreed that this is how this was going to work. And it's just, I think that's tricky. I think once you get into it, I think ego gets in the way in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Um, I worked harder than you did. I did what I did was more important to that project than what you did. Like that sort of stuff, I think, yeah, I mean, that stuff is painful when that happens. Like it's really, you're like, you don't even understand what the other person's talking about. And in all due respect to them, it makes total sense to them what they're saying. Like they are convinced that they are 100% right. And I think that can get, it's just so uncomfortable.
I mean, I would say that honestly, being a good collaborator is also experience. And if I were to create a project where I wanted to collaborate with other people again, I think I've learned so much from all of those past experiences. I would set about it completely differently. I would really lay out clear ground rules and I would understand that I had to communicate ongoingly during the project in a collaborative way for it to be like a true success.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can look at people that are a hell of a lot more famous than we are. I know it's hard to believe. Um, but you look at like, the Beatles, I always like to call them the Beatles.
I was like,
Like,
who are they?
yeah. You look at the Beatles, right? And then you look at the Stones. And the Beatles, like when they collaborated, like, I mean, genius, like just genius. And they truly collaborated. Like they really, I mean, yes, they had their fights and they had their this, but they really like, one, Paul would do this and then John would just do this and they really collaborated. I mean, that's real collaboration. And then it wasn't. Like then it just wasn't. Like it just things happened, life happened, and then that was it. And there was no repairing it. Like when it broke, it was broken. It was broken forever. Unfortunately for a lot of us, but that was just the way it meant to be. You look at the Stones, I mean, Jesus, I mean, they're still going out. I think they're coming out with a new album where they're going on tour or something like ridiculous again. It's like, what is it, like 200 years that they're together now? It's like, it's insane. But they're true collaborators too. Like they have figured out a way to do it. Now, there were bumps in the road there too. There was, Mick kind of went off on his own a little bit for a little bit and didn't go so well. And they realized this is a groove and we have this. And however their balance is, right? Like I don't know them, well enough to know, but you see these sort of things and you can see it with, a writer and a director or a director and an editor. And they really like they have a groove, they know what it is. They can butt heads, they can have their ups and downs, but when it works, it's such a beautiful thing. And I mean, it's an interesting question of like, how did they make that work when there's other things that on paper it looks like perfect. Like on paper it looks like this one's going to work, and then it doesn't. And I wonder what that is. I wonder if I mean maybe it is the ego of the person. Maybe it's I don't know. But I think it's interesting. I mean it's
Yeah, and it also depends on the thing. Not all things lend themselves to collaboration. As an
true too.
artist, there's like I think about Warhol, Basquiat, like they collaborated, but
Not really.
it wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like it's because they're basically both had these strong personas and styles. And so a few paintings were those things together, but that's not like a career, it might have been a very short lived period of time. But that there's not that much collaboration in art, I don't think.
I don't think so. Not in the type of art that you do. Not in the type of
Right.
art that you do. Like
Right.
in filmmaking as an art, yes.
Yes.
In
Music, obviously.
music, yeah, yes and no. Like some music, no. Some musicians are like, I want my musicians, I want my producer, I want my engineer, but I don't want collaboration. Like I'm gonna, there's many artists that have that, and it's not, I don't necessarily think there's something wrong with that. Like if they are able to do that and they work best in that way, like right, everybody works best the way they work. Um, some people have to work in an office environment. Some people prefer to work alone. Everybody has their own thing, which is totally fine. But I think as an artist, like what you do, I think I think there can be collaboration around all the other things, except for the physicality of the art. Like you have to paint the way you have to paint. It's as much as you do something and you show it to me, or maybe there's other people you show, and you're like, what do you think? And someone could say, oh, I think that's a little too dark, right? That's just an opinion. Like that's first of all, you're not even listening to that anyway, even if I'm saying it. But and I don't because it's not my place. It's not my place to do that. You ask me if I like it, I'll tell you I like it. I'll tell you I don't like it. It's whatever. But a little more orange, a little more blue, a little more green, a little less. That's nobody's. Who's going to tell you that? Like, and what am I going to do? Go in there with a paintbrush and be like, oh no way, I got this. I'll just like dab something there, and then okay, it's perfect. Like that's. I mean, I should do that once. Like just one painting, you should be like, go for it, and I'll just go. And they're like, perfect. Um, but that's not it, right? Like that's not the sort of thing that's going to work. So I think with the other, like with have some fun today, it's easier to say, oh, okay, we can collaborate on that because okay, let's work on the strategy together, let's work on the marketing together, let's work on the design together. We could do that. That's different. But I think painting, I don't think that I don't think that
Yeah, and
flies.
maybe that's why I wasn't like I didn't know how to collaborate because I don't need to collaborate to make the art that I
Yeah,
make, so I don't
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
I guess for me, like someone else can give me like a job as a collaborator and I'll do it and I'll listen to you and I'm open to talking to you, but I'm going to go and do the thing by myself. So maybe that's why I handled things like that. But I did learn a lot about collaborating and what I would do differently by having those experiences.
Well, it's interesting. Like, if you could like, write your own ticket and be like, okay, I want to do this thing. Like, is there a type of thing that would be interesting for you to do that you would be like, but I would definitely want to have a collaborator on something, like a different type of business, like outside of what you do, just out of curiosity?
I mean, I'm an interior designer, and like I think it would be really cool to create like this a gorgeous like resort, and that would entail a lot of creativity, great architect, maybe I would collaborate with another interior designer. Obviously, there's so many artisanal things that can go in there that would require collaboration with other creatives. I would love to do something like if I could do something like that, that would be, and I
That
may
would
do
be,
that,
yeah,
I
that,
may do
and
something
we've
like that.
talked, yeah, we've talked about that. Like, I mean, that,
Yeah.
so that's the type of thing. See, so there, it goes back to that thing again. Like, that's something physical. Like doing, let's say, a resort or a bed and breakfast or some sort of, type of thing, weekend getaway thing or spa thing, whatever. That's a physical thing where collaboration can kind of come in handy really well. Like you even said,
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I'm this type of interior designer, but like I might want a different type of interior designer for different areas. I want to collaborate with an architect. Like architect may show you a design, but you're gonna be like, no, I think we should move this here. And it's not just because you're the boss. It would be more like you'd want to work together. Like if I could see you as they're sketching things out and as they're doing things, I could see you being there, like collaborating, like really talking about like, what do you think about this? Like,
Yeah.
what are you feeling here? I'm seeing a lot of light, and you go like, well, I can see light, but I want a shadow here. I want to bounce a shadow up, like, and that's
Right. So
collaboration.
you're bringing in a lighting designer, and I'm not a sculptor. Like I love sculptures. Maybe, we're collaborating with a great sculptor for outdoor sculptures
Right.
or I mean, I just have like such a deep respect for people who do these amazing things, whether they're landscape designers, architects, lighting designers, sound designers. I mean, there's so many like nuanced specialties, and I love working with people who do that stuff. And that's where I would see my collaboration as a as an artist flourishing.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Let's do that.
Yeah, listen, I walk by many a shop in the city, or vacant place in the city, and very, very, very often go back to, the idea of, what the Effluence hospitality brand, that I came up with a long time ago that we didn't ever launch. And I think of it often like, I do all the stuff that I do, and I'm, working on all these different things, and I know it's what I'm meant to do and all that sort of stuff. And then there's that part of me like, I don't know, a Flint's coffee shop and a, art studio and screening room kind of would be a neat little thing to have. And that's it. That's what I do, and, whatever, or have a house and do something like, yeah, I think about that, whatever. That sort of collaboration would be kind of cool because it's still cool and fun and artistic and all that. But it isn't a lot of the other stuff that goes into the stuff that we do, which is kind of super cool and exciting, but somewhat not tangible. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I mean, is there anything like you could say like that you could help maybe another creative, like someone that's in your position, which is a little different than mine, like any guidance you would give, like, for
Well,
someone
yeah,
who's,
definitely, because I I really learned a lot from all of my not so great collaboration experiences. I think that you really have to be very clear about what it is you want to work on another person with and why and how, and have meetings as they're developing that thing for you. And if you're feeling like, I don't know if this is going to work, you should really talk about that. And you shouldn't be afraid to say, I think we need to do a little bit more because my fear is this won't sell. And if this doesn't sell, then we're going to have to do this. There's just so many things that that can come up with those kind of experiences. And I think
So like,
the
don't be bashful. Like, I guess
don't
that's
be bashful.
don't be bashful. If there's
Don't
something
be
if you're feeling
bashful.
something, say it. Like if you're going to be
Yeah.
collaborative, say it. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, you
sure.
have to really be able to be very clear and truthful and honest. And you really have to look at all of all of the things that you're going to have to do and the cost of them. And you're going to have to really look like, how is this really going to work? Like, who's putting in more here? Or how do we do this more evenly? I think that they're all really important things to look at when you're going to collaborate with someone else, depending on what
Yeah,
it is, obviously.
I think that's fantastic advice. I mean, I really, this is going to sound maybe a little bit weird, but I think you have to, if you're going to collaborate with somebody, want to whatever the team is. I don't mean this literally, or to each his own, but you have to get like naked. Like you have to get down to the core of everything. Like, is money the most important thing for me in this project? Is fame the most important thing in this project? Is notoriety? Is what is it? Like, be be clear. Don't hide it. Don't say, well, I really want to do this because I want to do this thing. No. Really, tell me the truth. Like, what's the real truth here? Like, what is it? You want to do this thing because you feel if you work on this project or on this new company that we're going to do, that you're going to get X amount of weeks off a year in vacation time. Okay. Is that what it is? I don't care. But I think that's whatever that is, that's what it is. I want to make as much money as everybody. No matter what we do, I want to make as much money as everybody else. Okay. If that's what it is, that's clear. It's very, very clear. I think where these things go crazy wrong is when people say, no, I really want to be part of something and whatever, but that's not it. They're not being honest. They're not being honest. That's why I say getting naked. When you're naked, that's your most honest. Like you can't, that's it. This is who you are. There's no changing that at that point. You can do all the other stuff and you can, and I think that is something that I think people don't do. They come into these things because whatever their reason may be, maybe it looks better than what they have right now. And so that's good enough. But if like one person is in it for the long haul, and there's other people on the team that are your collaborators or your partners that are only in it to get to the next thing, you're not gonna, you're destined to fail right there. Like right out of the gate, you've set yourself up to fail. And I don't think enough people do that. I don't think enough people have those really, really hard conversations. And you go back to that situation with with the one collection. I mean, like you said, we felt early on. I mean, we were kind of like, okay, we have to do this, and so we were kind of like, we already made commitments to, we've made commitments, we already said it, and then we're working out this deal with this person. It's like we knew this was going to be whatever. We knew it, but we didn't change it. We didn't do it. We'd be like, you know what? Just we're going to stop it right here. It's not interesting. Like,
Well,
I'll
I
take the
had
loss.
never had it. I
Yeah,
never
there's
had an
no way to know.
experience
Yeah,
that went sideways like that, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. So I think. And look, I've had, I've been different situations, whatever, the same thing. Like where I was like, this person is so good, they work so hard, they seem to really care. I want to make them, reap the rewards if this goes to the next level. And I want, and then all of a sudden, I remember, I mean, I had this conversation with, I had a situation and I mentioned it to my accountant. He's like, don't do it. Do not do this. Do not do this. Do not give this person shares in your company, even if it's one share. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I was like, no, but whatever. And it was just stupid. I was doing it for the right reasons. It wasn't like I was doing something wrong. I didn't do it maliciously. I was doing it for a good reason. Um, but, now, these people had a voice. And it sounds terrible to say that, right? It sounds so obnoxious, which is obviously not who I am. But that's not really that wasn't the right thing. The right thing was to give them more money. The right thing was just give them more money or more time off or bigger title or whatever. Giving them shares was not the answer. That was something that seemed logical to me. It seemed like it would be a good thing. And it ended up kind of making things much more awkward. I ended up working harder than I did before. And now I didn't have to answer to them per se because I was majority and all that. But of course I had to answer to them. Of course, I had to
Right.
take seriously when they asked a question. Of course, I had to kind of show them something that I didn't have to show them before. And it wasn't like there was anything shady or bad or anything, but it's just like it just added another layer of complication that just didn't have to be. So again, I think it goes to like really being clear, really thinking beyond just the immediate of this is going to be great, to the next point and to the next point to the next point. And maybe also, it's not that difficult now to look online to find something that's similar to what you're about to do and see people that have done it successfully, see people that it worked out really well for them, and maybe learn from like, what did they do? We can tell you what our experience is, but you have the opportunity now to look elsewhere too. I know. There's no place better than pickles and pasta. I get it. But it's good. It's good to kind of, look at that stuff. I mean, you could look at Steve Jobs, Jobs and Wozniak. Didn't work. Seemed like it was going to work. Didn't work. So, turned out okay in a way, you know, but whatever. I think it's good to do that. I think it's good to explore and open your mind and really, like I said, just be honest, be upfront, straight up from the beginning. And then I think then you're putting yourself in the best chance for success, and that's all you can ask.
And if all else fails, you can always ask Claude.
For now, we'll see who comes next. But yeah, that's true. You could.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, that was good. Anything else to add? I think we kind of hit all the good points.
No,
here
I think
today.
we hit it all.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you all for listening and spending a little time with us. We really appreciate it. Feel free to send us any questions or ideas or suggestions. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.